Hey guys, another day, another PC build. Today is the third day of January of 2026, and we are building a PC around the $300 budget in US dollars. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm reading off my laptop, but I hope you guys can bear with me. So, like the one I built 2 days ago, this PC is using both new and used parts. Whoops. So what makes this PC special is that we are actually going for an AliExpress build. So the AliExpress motherboard combo right here is pretty good value for money, and I know what you guys are thinking. AliExpress is a scam! But what you'll see later is that it is actually not a scam. You'll see why. So the goal of this PC is to offer a decent gaming experience at 1080p in most games, and this PC is a great way to get into the world of PC gaming if you don't have much money to spend. So with that being said, let's get into it. So starting off, we have this Zsuz motherboard and Xeon CPU combo from AliExpress, which costs around $80. So this features a Xeon E5 2680V4 featuring 14 cores and 28 threads. That's right, clocked at 2.4 GHz, although it is overclockable to 3.3 GHz, which we'll do later. It also comes with a single stick of 16 GB of ECC RAM, running at 2133 MHz, and whilst that may sound a little bit slow, it's actually not that bad considering we are using an Intel CPU in here. The main caveat, however, is that we are using single channel RAM. So that means we are getting reduced bandwidth and lower data transfer compared to dual or quad channel memory, but at least it gives you more room to upgrade to 32 GB in the future if you so choose to do so. And another special thing about this motherboard is the TPM 2.0 header. So if you want to play games that require TPM 2.0 like Valorant, League of Legends, Battlefield 6, or Black Ops 7, then you have the option to do so by adding a TPM 2.0 chip in here. And this also helps you get closer to matching the Windows 11 system requirements. And over here, I'm not going to show you anything, because it's generic. I also bought an RGB CPU cooler that goes along with the Xeon here with 4 heat pipes, and it cost me around $50. For the power supply, we are going with a 600 watt power supply from Thermaltake, which costed me around $40 US. The power supply will be more than enough to power all our components here. For the SSD, I decided to go with a 512GB SATA SSD for $37. And the reason I'm going with a SATA SSD instead of an M.2 SSD is because if we use an M.2 SSD for our motherboard here, we're going to run into compatibility issues, which are related to the custom BIOS in here. On top of that, with the current AI craze, I found out that M.2 SSDs are generally more expensive than SATA SSDs right now. So that's why I decided to go with a SATA SSD. Alright, now for the GPU, which you've all been waiting for, I decided to go for a 6GB RTX 2060. So I picked this up for $95 US, and at this price point, it's actually a pretty solid deal. And the RTX 2060 can definitely still play most games at 1080p with DLSS enabled, as long as you manage your expectations. And by that, I mean, don't expect the highest settings. You're gonna have to use low to medium settings to get around 50 plus FPS. And the 6GB of VRAM may sound a little tiny, which is true, but at lower textures, most games will run just fine even with 6GB of VRAM. Now, there is one exception, however, which is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. That game actually requires 8GB or more VRAM, and 6GB of VRAM, if we try to play that game, it will crash, or it simply won't launch. But other than that, most games will run just fine, especially esports games like Fortnite, Overwatch 2, even Marvel Rivals. All of these games will run just fine with 6GB of VRAM. And lastly, for the case, I decided to go for another X5M case, as you can see here, although instead of the black color, we're going with the white color for this one. So like the other one, this features 3 intake fans and 1 fan for exhaust. Overall, this costed me around $40. Alright, now that we got all our parts, let's get into the building montage. Alright guys, so the first game we'll be testing is Black Myth Wukong, and let's go over the settings real quick. So if we go to graphics here, we're using DLSS quality at 66%, so it renders at 720p and then upscales it to 1080p to make it look like it's 1080p when it's running at 720p. And we're using like mostly high settings except for shadow quality, because shadow quality is pretty demanding. So keep in mind, this is an Unreal Engine 5 title, so there may be a few stutters here and there. As you can see, like we're sitting right around 4.5 gigabytes of VRAM, so the 6 gigabytes of VRAM is plenty for this game, I would say. Looking at the GPU temperatures, we're sitting at 68 degrees, so not too shabby, and CPU's at 39 degrees. Okay, so our average frame rate is 53, and our minimum is 33. The lowest you'd ideally see is 46, so overall this is a pretty decent result, and the CPU is holding up pretty well, so on to the next game. Okay, so the next game we're going to be testing is Marvel Rivals, and we are using DLSS quality here, using the low preset, because we want to stay as competitive as we can, because I benchmarked this at high settings and we were only getting around 47 FPS, which is definitely not a competitive experience. This is another Unreal Engine 5 game, so you should expect a few stutters here and there, but so far performance is pretty good. We're sitting at 73 FPS as you can see here, and our minimum so far is 41. Now our VRAM usage is just at 4 gigabytes and our RAM usage is at 14 gigabytes, so 16 gigabytes is fine for this game, although I noticed that our GPU is not being maxed out, so this could be either an optimization problem or a CPU bottleneck. But as you can see with these results, the system is holding up pretty well. It's just that we're not fully utilizing the GPU. 76 FPS average and 1% low, 46. I can't really complain. Okay, so the last game we're going to be testing is Alan Wake 2, and going over the settings over here, we are running at 1080p with DLSS quality using the low preset. So this is not the lowest settings, you can definitely go lower, but because I want to retain some visual quality, I decided to keep it at the respective low preset. And over here, which is actually the most demanding area of the game, we are getting around 50 FPS. Now mind you, this is the most demanding game we're running right now. Our VRAM usage is around 5.4 gigabytes. So 6 gigabytes of VRAM is truly the minimum for gaming in 2026. There are games that will utilize more than that, even at the lowest settings, but respectively for 98% of games right now, 6 gigabytes of VRAM should be enough. The performance is pretty decent. The lowest I've seen is around 46. So overall, pretty decent result, and I couldn't really complain for 300 bucks. So now that we're done benchmarking, let's go into the conclusions. So what's my final judgment? I think we scored a pretty decent deal for 300 bucks. Now, you can definitely go for a better GPU like an RX 5700 XT. The reason I picked the RTX 2060 is because of its ray tracing support, so we can play games like Doom the Dark Ages, although there is one game that will not run, which is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So reiterating back to that, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle actually requires 8 gigabytes of VRAM as the floor, and with our 6 gigabyte VRAM buffer in our 2060, this PC will not launch that game. But for other games such as Alan Wake 2, which actually requires mesh shaders, in which the 5700 XT doesn't, this PC performed pretty well in a lot of the games we tested today. So the good thing about this AliExpress board is that it features a TPM 2.0 header, so if you want to play games such as Valorant or Battlefield 6, you can definitely add a TPM 2.0 module into this PC. This PC, I would say, is more lenient towards esports gaming, such as Fortnite, Minecraft, or even Marvel Rivals like what we saw today, or even Overwatch or Rainbow Six Siege. But as we've seen today, it can handle AAA games just fine. So would I copy this PC? Probably not. You can definitely go for better options, because my one gripe is actually, again, like in the last video, with a CPU cooler. So the CPU cooler we chose is actually fixed at this rainbow style RGB configuration, but the rest of the case fans are customizable with its colors. but unfortunately we cannot do the same with the CPU cooler. I found out that the main bottleneck is actually with using single channel RAM. If we use dual channel, we'd see a boost in our frame rates. You can definitely go for 32 gigabytes if you want to upgrade later, but considering how RAM prices are expensive right now, I couldn't really complain. Anyways, that does it for today's video. What are your thoughts on this PC? Let me know in the comment section below, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a like if you like this video, leave a dislike if you hate this video, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.